Here it is, the Endgame. What? If Captain America can do it, so can I. Yeah, I got this. The Avengers Endgame. Let me start right off the bat and say that there are going to be absolutely no spoilers here whatsoever. That being said, it is going to be difficult for me to talk specifics about the story. So overall, this review will be a bit vague. So with that out of the way, let's do this. This movie was awesome, which is really saying something because this is the culmination of 11 years of films. 22 in total, and the greatest cliffhanger of this generation. So the movie had a lot to live up to, and it absolutely does. The movie starts in a really dark place, just like the last movie ended. And the first half, if not the first 2/3 of the movie, is much slower than Infinity War and many of the Marvel movies that came before it. But that's okay. It's not boring slower, it's just a slower film. There is a lot of stuff to cover here, and they need ample time to touch on all these things that have built up over the course of the past 11 years. This also allows us the opportunity to see the characters' emotional fallout from the last movie. I myself really appreciated and enjoyed this part of the movie. It gave the characters and story a depth that a lot of times movies like this and of this size just don't afford their characters. So by the end of it, even though yes, there's 11 years of history to this story, you're really invested in these characters. But like I said, it is never boring. It's interesting from beginning to end. And just because part of it is a bit slower than the previous movies, when this one ratchets the excitement up, man, it brings it up to 11. Also, everyone in this movie that we've come to know gets their moment in the spotlight. No one's singled out. From the talks I'd heard leading up to the movie's release, I was really afraid they were going to overuse Captain Marvel. And without ruining anything, I can absolutely say no, they don't. She's there, and she's actually put to really good use. I liked Captain Marvel in this movie 100% more than I did in her own solo movie. Which on a side note, that does lead me to an answer of a question I posed in my Captain Marvel review. Was the Captain Marvel solo movie even needed? At the time, I didn't know, because I stated, who knows, maybe Endgame will change my opinion on it. No, it doesn't. And no, the Captain Marvel movie was not needed. They could have summed up everything we needed to know about that character in a 15-minute segment in the first one, or maybe even a 5 or 10-minute segment in this one. But whatever, regardless, I really liked her in this movie. The movie's story is very interesting and very complex, but never convoluted. I never once felt like there was just too much happening and I didn't know what was going on, or that random pointless storylines were being started and abruptly ended. This movie is lean, and it has a laser focus on its target. And there is a lot going on in this movie, but it's never overwhelming. While the movie is a good bit darker than the previous movies, given the subject matter that it begins with, it is still a Marvel movie, and it does still have that great mix of humor versus everything else. I was really happy to see that they didn't lose that. And it's very rare, if ever, that that humor is awkwardly placed in the movie. There's a fair amount of fan service in this movie too, and I've actually heard some people criticizing it for that, which I totally don't get. If any movie deserves to have fan service in it, it's this movie. I see no problem in saying, hey fans, we see you, we hear you, we appreciate you, here's a little something for you. None of it ever detracts from the overall enjoyment of the film. Actually, the majority of it, if not really all of it, is just really enjoyable. Honestly, the people that are criticizing these things, I think are just really looking for something to nitpick. And it is really hard to find things to nitpick in this movie. I thought that its 3-hour runtime might be a bit tough in a theater, but this movie just doesn't feel like it's that long. It doesn't feel any longer, if not even as long as Infinity War, which that's usually a pretty good indication of a good movie. This movie also has one of, if not honestly, the most satisfying last acts of any movie I've ever seen. The last hour of this movie is a rousing, exciting roller coaster of emotions. It is awesome. The ending, and honestly the whole entire movie, is just extremely satisfying. And things that have this kind of build up over such a long period of time typically don't pay off in a wholly satisfying way. They may be good, but they're never quite as amazing and great as you'd hope for. Avengers Endgame absolutely is. This movie was so satisfying and put such a great cap on everything up to this point that if this were it, if they came out and said this is the last MCU movie we are going to make, I would be 100% okay with it. This would be the perfect ending. Where it left all of our characters is the perfect place. Yes, it leaves things open for new adventures for sure, but this movie by the end is definitely the end of an era. This is one of the best movies I have seen in quite a while. I loved every minute of it, and you will too, because you should absolutely go see this in theaters. This is honestly one of the best theater experiences I've had in a long time, and I'm sure it would be for you as well. So there it is, guys, my review of the Avengers Endgame. If you enjoyed and want more content like this, hit that subscribe button and help my little channel grow. If you liked what I had to say, give me a thumbs up. If not, let me know in the comments below why. And as always, I'll see you guys next time. Don't wait around in the theater for a post-credit sequence either, because this is probably the first Marvel movie in quite some time that just doesn't have one. So don't believe people's lies like I did, because there ain't shit there.